This video will be my first film study of the 2025 NFL season, and I've chosen to try to highlight and cover the play of Ahmed Hassanein and Nate Lynn, two younger defensive ends for the Detroit Lions. They're certainly down on the depth chart, don't get me wrong, behind guys like Davenport, Muhammad, Josh Pascal, even Derek Barnes will be used there to some extent into the boundary. I thought those two young guys, Hassanein, the rookie, and Nate Lynn, second-year defensive end out of William and Mary, they displayed high effort, some closing speed on some zone read plays and runs away from them. And in the case of Lynn, I thought a great ability to find the football no matter what. I've got about 12 or 13 plays queued up here. I did think that some of Hassanein's pass rush moves, he is trying to run something. He's trying to execute a move, whether it's a two-hand chop, a cross chop, a swat. He's just getting touched up by the tackle a little sooner than maybe he expected. We're going to get into the film here quick so you can enjoy it and I can find out what's going on in terms of what YouTube is going to allow me to display. This first play for Hassanein is one that I think you should get used to if you're going to watch any film study of the Lions game against the Chargers. And here's what I mean. Shepard, the defensive coordinator, used a ton of this stunt where he's got a 3 and a 5, a D tackle, and a defensive end in the case of Hassanein lined up to one side, and they're stunting inside to the A gap and the B gap, bringing an inside linebacker or a nickel safety off the edge. No reflection necessarily on Hassanein here. The scheme, the idea behind this is to get the inside linebacker, the other remaining inside linebacker, in this case Zach Cunningham, unblocked. So it's mission accomplished here, right? He just happens to miss the tackle. I thought the Chargers running backs ran with a lot of force, a lot of tenacity. We're getting downhill, really untouched a lot of the times. One thing to mention as far as Hassanein, and I'll cover this a couple of times during the video, is the stagger or lack thereof in his stance sometimes. You can see the stagger that he's got along with, I think it's Muhammad over on the other side. I could be wrong, forgive me. But the less stagger he has in his stance, the slower he is in his get off. And some of that might be the design, to be honest with you, what he's being asked to do on a particular play. Most of the reps here in the beginning will be Hassanein. This is a third down in the first quarter. In fact, this is the one that's given up a big completion by Ennis Rakestraw Jr. against Keandre Lambert-Smith. And I'll cover Ennis Rakestraw Jr. in a video for Saturday morning if you guys would like to see that. Hassanein, to me, is getting touched up a little bit earlier sometimes when he's trying to run moves. And I will give you the end zone angle of this one so you can see it. I'm talking about what's happening right here. I'm not really focusing on anything else, just Hassanein and Lynn to the exclusion of pretty much anything else. And he just ends up getting expanded a little bit in this direction, slightly, ever so slightly, because the tackle touches him a little sooner than he's able to get his two-hand chop or two-hand swat accomplished. We'll give you the end zone angle so you can see what I'm saying. There's Hassanein spot shadowed on the left-hand side. Lynn wasn't in until a little bit later. Muhammad is over on the right. So here's the touch that I'm talking about, the stab, if you will, by the tackle. Run it back a couple of times, and you can see that it kind of gets Hassanein. Hassanein's jumping off of his inside foot. So a little bit of a Euro step move, kind of, but he's trying to get his right hand to be able to clear this shoulder of the tackle to create a path for him to win to the top side, the far side of the tackle, if you will, right now. Well, you can see that doesn't occur. So his right shoulder ends up getting upended. That's what I mean when I say he got expanded a little bit. His right shoulder gets upended by the tackle. It's really rush over at this point. He tries to turn it into a bull rush, which is great. He recognized quickly that that move didn't actually work. He ends up on the ground. It's a great completion from Trey Lance, who played spectacular football, if you ask me, for pretty much 3 quarters. One thing I'd like to cover as well is a few times when Hassanein's like standing up in almost a 3-4 outside linebacker look, I don't think that really is in his best interest. He's got great athleticism and burst, plays a little bit slow out of his three-point stance. Again, a little bit due to the flattened nature of his stance. He's not really replacing his inside hand. When he doesn't get off quickly, he's not really threatening the tackle enough such that the tackle has to worry about a topside move as much. I think once his get off is a little better and he's able to threaten to the top side, I'm not talking about just a speed rush, then it'll put him in better position to try to land some of his moves a little bit sooner than we saw Thursday night. An excellent play against the run here by Hassanein, spot shadow on the bottom side of the Lions defense. Great get off by O'Connor, the defensive tackle here. So the way that this is working out, you've got motion working right to left for the offense, bottom to top side of our screen. Additional to that, the tight end is working in kind of this split zone look to go get the backside defensive end. Tackle steps to Hassanein, and you can see he's able to shed that guy and then jump inside to make the tackle, leave his feet, and finish it off, along with the inside linebacker that fumbled the opening kickoff of the game. End zone angle of this same play. There's Hassanein kind of hidden by one of the goalposts. There's the action, meaning the tackle stepping to him, and then the tight end, the Y, if you will, going against the grain of the offensive line, blocking a split zone look. O'Connor does a nice job getting into his gap, holding his outside position. Hassanein's got his left foot, pretty high in the air, cleats out of the ground for a moment, but he had already worked to disengage or shed that offensive tackle. I think that's a great move that kind of gives you an illustration of what he's capable of, especially right now against the run. Not a big fan of this kind of lurk look for him personally. Maybe other guys, more experienced players, especially inside linebackers, trying to threaten where they're going to rush, but you can see all they were doing was just hiding the same damn blitz that they used a ton against what they thought was going to be zone read. And so what I mean by that is anticipating that they're reading Hassanein, they're going to try to stem or stunt him to the inside, trying to possibly get into the B gap, and then bring the outside linebacker off the edge for the quarterback. Essentially, if Lance is not reading it, then what they, the Lions, and Shepard think is maybe the D end can run it down from behind. And if the quarterback keeps it, well, then you've got the inside linebacker for him. That's the thought process, if you ask me. Maybe a little bit more intricate than that simple explanation. Generally worked from the standpoint of forcing Lance to give the football. A couple of times he ended up just reading the next guy out, which is the way to do it. Still focusing on Hassanein. He gets touched up again here, if you ask me. Now, you can see in his stance that he's very flat, very slow get off out of the stance. I mean, now he does have a tight end, so that's a part of this equation, meaning he's lined up to the tight end side. The other edge defender, defensive end, whatever you want to refer to him as, doesn't have a tight end down there to react to. So Hassanein's visual key, his eyes, might be that tight end initially. But in any case, number one, we do have a blown coverage here. The inside linebacker and Strickland have both went with this tight end, leaving no one on the running back down in the flats. And partially because of Hassanein's slow get off, he's not able to threaten at all. They have created some type of pocket for Lance. Hassanein tries to fold inside. Unfortunately, can't finish off the sack. Neither can O'Connor. And it ends up being the veteran inside linebacker, Zach Cunningham, forcing Lance out of bounds on an incomplete. Same play from the end zone angle. Notice the lack of any stagger in his stance. It's by design, right? It's what the Lions are asking him to do. Comparing it to Muhammad on the other side, very flat stance. Again, I think it's due to tight end being lined up to his side, and he's got a 3-technique defensive end to him, so he's not attacking as much for whatever reason. He's not touching the tight end either, which is somewhat bothersome for me. What do we have the guy in a flat stance for if it's not to touch and react to the tight end? Essentially, be a 6-technique D end, jam the tight end briefly, such that you help out the coverage element. But in any case, I digress. You can see how he gets touched up a little bit here early. I'll run this a couple of times so you can see it. Forgive me if it's staccato or it's not smooth in terms of the video. Feel free to let me know in the comment section. The player that I use, I really enjoy using it. Number one, I can put some graphics on screen quite easily. It doesn't involve a whole lot of effort and time. But sometimes when I slow play things like this, it does make the video look kind of choppy. So if it's doing it in this case, feel free to let me know. There's the stab that really touches him up, gets him off balance. You can see O'Connor trying to work and maybe finish things off or at least get in a passing lane. And in the case of Hassanein, he's unable to finish off. Would really look like a great opportunity for a sack as Lance kind of folded inside. The same exchange stunt that Shepard used a ton is going to occur here. This is one of Rock Ya-Sin's 2 tackles, I think, inside the 10-yard line in the first quarter. I would have liked to have seen Ya-Sin involved in some more coverage snaps. But in any case, I think it's quarterback power read, or just power read if you want to call it, out of the gun. Same stunt by the Lions. Hassanein stepping down, this time inside the tight end from that same pretty much flat stance. He might be giving it away a little bit by his inside foot, but in any case, stepping down inside the tight end. The inside linebacker, I think Stewart is his name, I believe, is unable to make the tackle. There's Hassanein, perhaps giving this away a little bit with his stance not being as staggered, but in any case, there's the stunt. He's stepping inside. Really, I think he ends up in C gap, but the way I've got it drawn up there is that it looks like he's going to B gap. Lance is really looking to that side because you've got a pulling guard from the opposite side. So Lance is either reading the sweep path to the running back, which is what he gives, or keeping it and following and basically running quarterback power. Inside linebacker unable to finish the play after the quarterback gives it, and unfortunately, I think you kind of got a bad angle here by 29 Maddox, the guy that used to play for the Eagles. Fortunately for Detroit, Rock Ya-Sin is able to finish it off and knock the running back out of bounds while taking a pretty big shot himself. Same exact stunt on the very next play, in fact, and with the same two guys. So it does accomplish its task, right? Once again, Cunningham, the inside linebacker, is left unblocked. There's just a whole head of steam for this running back. I mean, look at where he's got his heels. He being the running back, his heels are pretty much on the 7-yard line, and Cunningham's about a yard into the end zone. It works out the way that you would draw it up, such that the inside linebacker is unblocked. So is the safety Strickland, who I really didn't think played that well upon rewatch. Cunningham's got to get over this trash and try to stone this running back in the hole at about the 1-yard line, let's call it. Let's say they're meeting at the 1. I'm not exactly sure how deep it is or how close to the end zone. The point is the running back's heels started from the 7. And if they're on the 1, if you accept that they're on the 1, that's a whole head of steam for the running back to charge forward. It doesn't surprise me that he ends up powering into the end zone a little bit late for a touchdown. Now let's turn our attention a little bit to Nate Lynn, the second-year defensive end. Like I said, at William and Mary, he's very dominant there, athletic, super high-effort guy with a great motor. Actually knew some people that coached against him, and they had nothing but great things to say about him. Really, all of the things I heard about him, I guess 2 or 3 years ago, showed up Thursday night against the Chargers. I think he had 3 tackles, maybe one of them wiped away by a penalty. I've got no idea where he is in the pecking order. Practice squad, probably below Hassanein would be my guess because of the draft position, number 1. But also, I think Hassanein's ceiling, his athleticism is a little bit better, a little bit higher than Lynn. If you do think he performed extremely well. The pass rush moves, he's not running as many moves as Hassanein as quickly. He did seem to have trouble dealing with the length and the quickness of the tackles, and especially with disengaging while he was in the pass rush. Really great effort against the run. This is his first snap, the first pass rush play that I'll give you. To play action, and you can see really getting interrupted by the tackles, kind of jumping him a little bit. When we say jump, we mean the tackle's kind of flat, not exactly flat, but he's not getting as deep of a set, and you can see really disrupting Lynn completely. You'll get a couple of reps here where you'll see that the tackle was able to interrupt his rush. Now, also, there's an element to this such that he's got to get outside to the C gap, and then you got a B gap player in this defensive tackle. Why, or how do I know that? Because you got an inside linebacker blitz in A. Once again, it's the inside linebacker that fumbled to start the game. Great effort by him. He gets basically stonewalled by the running back, chopped down, rolls, and then still gets himself a sack. So from a Lynn standpoint, he is responsible for an outside rush such that the inside linebacker is soloed up one-on-one with the running back, if you will. Same play from the end zone angle. There's the linebacker's path. You can see he gets chopped down by the running back, flipped over, still gets up and gets involved in the play. I'm not sure, how much coverage that play has gotten. I just think it is indicative of the type of effort you got from some of these guys, even though the result 34-7 didn't turn out in Detroit's favor. Lynn, once again, here off the right side, dealing with the same tackle, in fact. And so I don't know exactly who the tackles are that the Chargers were playing at the point in time when Lynn got in the game. But I do know that they seemed really good at interrupting the defensive ends, at least the guys, not Ukwu and Nowaski. Those guys are a little bit higher level, but they're really, outside linebacker type guys. This is a nice redirect by Lynn. So the offensive tackle is retracting his hands right now because he sees Lynn trying to get to him with his outside arm, right? And so he's retracting his hand right now. I'm just running it back and forth so you guys can see it. Retracting his hand such that the strike by Lynn doesn't land, and then he, the tackle, is getting his own long arms on Lynn. But because Lynn got his hands to the inside, he's got enough strength to be able to frame him up and then redirect to the inside with a nice little chop by his outside hand. I'm talking about right here. violent, quick. He doesn't get to the quarterback in time, so he probably doesn't get a win there. But at least it's an idea that you've got a guy, again, in the case similar to Hassanein, who when he loses his initial move, has at least got the awareness to be able to understand, okay, how can I redirect back to the quarterback? And I think Campbell's talked about this a lot in the last couple of years. Dan Campbell, you don't want to get too far. Once you get to the quarterback's depth, you got to stop and redirect back inside. So Lynn showed that awareness, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to highlight him. I think it's a cover 3 here for the Lions. The both corners are getting off, and the free safety in the middle of the field. Pretty basic or obvious example of it. A lot of completions underneath by Trey Lance against zone underneath, such that guys had to come up and make a tackle. Failed spin move inside by Lynn. His get off doesn't seem to be as problematic at times as Hassanein, but it's still not consistently fast in my opinion. I just don't think he's getting off with the same initial burst as guys like Uku or even Nowaski or Muhammad when they're in the game. End zone angle of the same play. So here's what I'm talking about on the other side. Hell, it might not even be Uku. I think it's 45. Maybe I'm thinking of last year's numbers. So if I'm wrong there, my apologies. But you can see the width that he's got, right? And he's collapsing down on this tackle such that he can frame him up now and bring him back to the inside. It's a different move than Lynn is trying to bring. It's not smooth, obviously, by Nate Lynn at all. I'm looking forward to seeing these guys, Hassanein and Lynn especially, but many of the Lions defenders, young defenders in particular, in their second game to see if some of the things that they do kind of improves and the speed with which they try to accomplish it. Another pinch or attempt to kind of step to the inside, but this time Lynn is off in that wide alignment. You'll get the end zone angle of this one. And so the way this works out, it's a run play to the top side, up here. Running back is getting the ball. That's the orange path. And the fullback is kind of winding it back. Some would still call this split zone. We kind of used to call it zone kick because the fullback was executing a kick out block from originating from the backfield. And look at Lynn kind of dig this out. He's running the path. Now, there's nobody else out here other than this corner who had some struggles in this game himself. Point is, if the running back has any awareness, kind of brings this out, maybe this angle by Lynn is a little bit of an issue. But from the standpoint of the way it worked out on this particular play, I mean, he gave the running back no lane inside of that kick out block, if you accept, the designation or the phrase that I'm using for it, number one, and it had to go front side where Nowaski really just kicks the shit out of somebody and holds at the point of attack. The same play from the end zone angle, by the way. Tackle with a down block, a zone to our right, kick to our left with the fullback, and you can see the flat path that Lynn is taking towards the football. I think it's Nowaski. A clean win here at the point of attack, standing up one of the backup tight end / fullbacks, if you will, for a nice tackle right at the line of scrimmage. Hasn't looked real pretty so far for Nate Lynn. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to, make any bones about it. However, I do want to talk about his awareness, his effort, and his ability to find the football, and that's going to start to show up here. I think we're into the third quarter of play. Here he is off our left side, not in as wide of an alignment as the previous play, but again, effort, awareness, ability to find the football. He's trying to frame up the offensive tackle. So because the inside linebacker, I think it's Turner, has went with one of the tight ends on kind of like a delayed arc release. There's no support by a backside inside linebacker. The backside inside linebacker's gone. He's expanded. You'll get the all-22 angle in a moment. You'll see what I'm saying. I think that Nate Lynn may have saved a huge run here. Rakestraw is in pursuit. The safety Strickland is there as well, but he's not gaining. When I say he, I mean Strickland is not gaining. That running back's got a full head of steam, and there's nobody else out there really. Nate Lynn is able to finish off the tackle. Same play, end zone, all 22 angle. This is the inside linebacker that I'm talking about. I think it's Turner, 47, 7 tackles in the game. So he has widened up with that tight end. It's a little bit of an arc release by this tight end, so he's perhaps responsible for him in man. Which leads me to believe that he's one of Anzalone's backups. Anzalone plays into the boundary. There's the right hash. Anzalone plays into the boundary, and he's capable of playing man on tight end. So I think they're asking 47 to do a lot of the things that Anzalone does, which, again, leads me to believe that he's his backup. So in terms of Nate Lynn, getting back to him, he's down here holding his gap. The running back has brought it against that grain, and then he's going to bring it back down here to the bottom side of our screen. Nate Lynn's going to spin back around and make this tackle. It's a great effort if you ask me. Maybe I should have just let it play and and it would do his effort here a little bit more justice. My apologies for that. You can see he's able to spin away from the tackle, disengage, and then go track the running back and make a really nice tackle that could have saved an even longer game. Pass rush situation, I think you got to cover 2 defensively by the Lions. I am trying to track coverages this year more than I have in previous seasons and put out a standalone content on the Ravens coverages and in a separate video the Lions coverages for a lot of reasons, and I'll get into that a little bit later if you're interested. So here's Lynn getting to that quarterback depth again. Now the ball is out too, but it speaks to his awareness, number one, and there almost seems to be a stop sign to his depth for his rushes. So I think he's aligned with the vision that Campbell has. Is he going to get on the field in the regular season? Most likely not. Great effort here to get back involved in the tackle, if you ask me. Very similar to the previous play. The only difference was the previous play was a run concept, and this is a quick pass. One more time, a left tackle is kind of landing on him. And I think Lynn is trying to stutter step and maybe work to the outside, also reading at the same time. Tackle stabbed him, punched him a little earlier than maybe he expected, really interrupted his pass rush move, or really the ability to generate any such pass rush move, if you will. Lynn down here at the bottom side, same exact stunt that the defense for the Lions has run numerous times in this game, and he trips over the foot of one of his teammates. It really looks like a pancake block by the left tackle, 65, the same guy that he had trouble with in pass rush. You can see right there, spot shadowed Lynn is tripping over the foot of a defensive tackle, and Turner actually folds underneath and makes this play from behind on that stunt. So that stunt did bear fruit. Don't get me wrong, but I also want to highlight Lynn on this play. And you'll get the end zone angle, you'll see it. And he does end up on the ground, and maybe he just fortunately rolls into the play. But he's getting his ass up, and that's one of the things you talk to football players about is, hey, you end up on the ground, need you to get up as quick as possible. There's Turner's path to the running back, one of his game-high 7 tackles on the day. Try to track Lynn. It's hard from the end zone angle here. He's the guy that ends up on the ground. I'll slow it down so you can see it. And then rolls back into the. I don't think he, actually got credit for the tackle, to be honest with you. Another look at Hassanein as a flat stance against the tight end. I think you got a really great look here. Notice the 3 orange lines, the staggered stances of the other line's defensive lineman, and he's in a 6 technique, head up on the tight end. He's actually not in a 6. He's still inside shade, so almost a 5, but he's reacting a little bit like a 6 technique from the standpoint of his stance. I'd prefer for them to maybe move the 3 technique over. And so what I mean when I say that is pre-motion, the tight end who's in motion here originated over here to the right. So the Lions had the 3 technique set to the right, and the 1 technique, nose, shade, 2-eye, whatever you want to call them, depending on his width, set to the boundary where Hassanein was. Watch Hassanein switch his stance. It's staggered currently with his left hand down, his inside hand down. So his left foot would replace his left hand. His first step, that's what it would be. Well, when you stagger your stance, it's a little bit different in terms of your takeoff. There's not as much of a differential between your inside hand, his left hand, and his left foot. There's not as much of a differential for that foot to replace, so he's not going to gain as much ground. It's common sense, right? I may not have done a great job explaining it, but very different from the other side. Now, you do have an outside hand down there. Over on the other side, it's actually Lynn. He's left unblocked on the play. I actually love this play for both guys. Hassanein is not getting really off the ball, so people might want to talk about that. Look, he's getting doubled by 2 badass dudes that are playing in the NFL, regardless of if it's a preseason game or not. But look at the effort, man. This dude just brings the wood. I like his game, and certainly Lynn is offering you a lot here from the standpoint of being unblocked and then chasing this thing down from behind all the way into the boundary. It's a read apparently by Lance, who's threatening to keep it to the field. A lot of contact there, and that kind of stacks things up initially. I think both of these guys played well. I love the effort out of Hassanein. And the last play here that I'll show you is certainly going to show you he's got a great celebration already set up. It's almost WWE-esque. More of a staggered stance here with the running back to his side, away from the tight end. It's a flex formation, so there's no tight end close to the line of scrimmage, and he makes the tackle on the backside of, what appears to be a read concept by Trey Lance. Trey Lance is not really showing great technique at all if it's a read, but I know they had trouble with the snaps during the game. Notice his left foot and his left hand, the relationship. The left foot's kind of going flat. Maybe that's a read. Maybe that was the initial look that he was going to give against a read concept. But Trey Lance's feet are a little bit messed up here. And after Hassanein makes a really nice play, he's got a great celebration to show us that it appears he's worked on pretty well. I enjoyed watching the game, first of all, even though it was a struggle at times, especially with the offensive difficulties. But I was looking forward to seeing Hassanein play, Rakestraw as well, who was a little bit more disappointing, but I won't provide a summary judgment. One game doesn't a career make it all. These two guys, Lynn and Hassanein, different places in their career maybe, but they're both young. Lynn really missed the whole season last year after, I believe, a training camp injury. I think the ceiling for Hassanein probably higher, right? Just based on this one viewing. They're both getting their pass rush attempts interrupted or stung, right, by tackles, longer arm tackles. So they're going to have to threaten with a speed rush or a topside rush to counter that. Establish something as a speed or outside rush such that they can then collapse the tackle, like I think it was Uku 45 did on one of the reps that I kind of talked about. I'm really not sure if Lynn has the absolute explosiveness to get there from that standpoint to the outside, being a consistent winner at this level, but he's a good player. He played well. I thought he showed skill and will against the Chargers team that was very physical, and Lynn, took advantage of his opportunity. Hassanein, like I said, looks like a higher ceiling, very raw. They ask him to flatten his stance more depending on the situation. That may impact his slower get-offs. I still do think he's got to improve the snap reaction. Anyway, outside of that flattened stance, but he's got the strength and the bulk to be a factor sooner, than Lynn probably. Really, both of their games are similar right now in that they got great effort. Don't have many pass rush wins, clearly, against the Chargers, but the Chargers ran the football a lot and ran a lot of zone read options, so that slows up the defensive ends, and that's kind of the idea behind the concept anyway. I have no idea who the Chargers were playing at tackle later on, but those guys did a nice job, I thought, of interrupting any pass rush moves that Lynn and Hassanein were trying to generate. Room for improvement with both guys from a recognition standpoint and just quicker get-offs, especially in the case of Hassanein. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please let me know in the comment section. If you did not like the style or the length of it, feel free to let me know as well. But if you do think other Lions fans would enjoy this film study look at two young defensive ends that are buried down the depth chart, don't get me wrong, but at least one of which, Hassanein, a lot of fans are excited about. If you think other Lions fans would enjoy this one, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.